Okay, on the evaporator cover, I've already removed the shelves and some of the screws, but one thing I want to point out, it is very necessary when you put these back in that you put the bottom lip of the evaporator cover inside the drain trough. Now this is a little different than previous models where it went on the outside. Putting it inside will assure any water running down the back side of the evaporator cover will flow into the trough and not leak out between the trough and the cover, winding up underneath the basket in the bottom of your freezer. As you can see, your air return hole right here, but it goes down at an angle, about a 45-degree angle, returning from the food compartment, so you don't have the straight through, and this does stop a lot of the backwash coming through it. To service into the fan motor, it's a lot easier if you remove these two screws. That'll let you lift this panel up without putting a fold mark in it. Now, I found it a lot easier that if you just take one of the shelves and sit them back in place, and let the cover set down, that'll hold it up out of your way. Unplug the fan motor, disconnect your ground wire, and the fan motor assembly will slide out of here in one complete unit. Then you can go ahead and replace the fan motor or fan blade, whatever you need. Defrost limit switch, of course, is snapped over top of the aluminum evaporator. Simply a matter of reaching in and unclipping it. Now, you will find that it is part of the wiring harness now. Your defrost limiter is hardwired into the harness to get rid of connection problems. The kit that you'll get when you order a defrost limiter will have 2 solderless connectors and 2 pieces of heat shrink, so it will be necessary to cut and splice them in. The defrost heater itself still has the bayonet quick disconnect plugs, so you can unplug your defrost heater, disconnect your one wire, and this takes out basically the removable part of your wiring harness. Okay, first you're going to want to get the black damper off of here, so take a pocket knife and cut a slit down through here. Remove your damper pad. At that point, you're going to take your 3-cornered file and cut yourself a notch around your capillary tube and go ahead and break your cap tube off. Then go ahead and cut your suction line loose from your evaporator. Bend your evaporator up out of the way a little bit. You've got 3 screws that you're going to have to remove because you will have to tip the drain trough to pull the evaporator out. Get a hold of your evaporator drain trough and slide that thing slightly forward. And take it on out of the product. Drill out your single pop rivet. Allow you to pop your clamp out and take your old evaporator out of your drain trough. You'll at that point have to transfer your defrost heater to your new evaporator and make darn sure that you replace these 2 foam blocks that go on each side of the evaporator. They are essential for the refrigerator's operation, and a lot of times they get left out. But these are what force the air to go between the fin and tubes and not go up alongside and bypass the evaporator. Set your evaporator back down in your drain trough. Take your replacement hanger bracket. Now that you've got this ready to go back in, we'll have to prepare our heat shield for the back of our liner to protect it from damage when doing your welding. Coming in your evaporator kit, you've got a nylon cloth. Just take a sharp pocket knife and cut yourself a small X right in the middle of the cloth. What you want to do at this point then is push this over top of that heat exchanger sticking out of the back of that cabinet. Okay, now take your drain trough and set it back in place, using the drain trough to hold the heat shield in place. This will allow you to slide your evaporator up. Lining up your suction line and connect it into your new evaporator. Okay, go ahead and insert your capillary tube back into your evaporator. In most cases, you will have to crimp it just a bit. Make sure it stays there until you make your weld. At this point, you're going to want to take your heat shield off, but before you do that, go ahead and take your inspection mirror and come in and go around your welds real well, making darn sure that you've got a good weld before you go ahead and take that heat shield out of there. Check both your suction line and your capillary tube. For the few minutes it takes, it's a lot easier than trying to fish that heat shield back in again once you've removed it. Looks like we've got a couple good welds. Now at this point, what you want to do is simply go into one of the seams and just start slitting the heat shield and pulling it upwards. The heat shield was designed for one-time use. We do not recommend reusing them. You will get a new one with any additional evaporator that you would order. Get the rest of your residue out of there. You can now shove the evaporator back into place. Push it down until you get it lined up with your holes, and go ahead and put your screws back in.